Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. My name is Joe. Today we're going to be continuing our series on Skies Above Britain from GMT Games, designed by Jerry White and Gina Willis. This is the fourth video in the series. If you did not watch the previous three, that is probably recommended unless you are already familiar with how the dogfight and bomber cycles of this game work. The topic of this video will be the interception sequence, which is actually an earlier piece of the game. This is where your squadron essentially has located the enemy formation, the enemy bombers. They are going in to attack the bombers, deal with the escorting fighters, etc., etc. So this covers that. There is a fourth piece, the raid vector sequence. That would be the final piece that has not been touched upon yet. That actually leads into this piece. So the learning sequence is kind of how do you do your dogfights, how do you attack the bombers, then it's how do you intercept the bomber formation and deal with the escorting fighters, how all that works. And then the last piece is actually how do you find the bomber formation itself. So that is the order in which the designers have chosen to teach the game. So there are 11 learning scenarios and then one that's kind of I guess also a learning scenario. It's a little bit less structured in that one covers the raid vector sequence, and that'll be in a subsequent video. Today we're going to be looking at scenario 11. So I did 1 through 9, the first 5 being the dogfight cycle and 6 through 9 being the bomber cycle. The bomber cycle was split into 2 videos. Scenarios 6, 7, and 8 were in the first, and scenario 9, because it was a more involved scenario, was in its own video. This video will only cover scenario 11. Scenario 10 is fairly basic. It really shows you how you intercept the bomber formation, the basics of moving your squadron around on the interception map, and what happens when you lose contact, how you regain contact, how you enter the bomber formation, essentially everything except how you deal with escorts. So this one covers the whole kit and caboodle, essentially, in terms of interception, because we will be dealing with escorts. We will have a heavy escort of ME-109s. The raid itself, the bombers in the raid, are Stukas. So they are obviously light bombers and much more vulnerable in general to our fighter aircraft than, say, the bigger heavy, well, they're not heavy, medium bombers are. So here we have the interception sequence and the various phases. You start with the orders phase. The setup comes from either the situation manual, which is what we'll be using for this because this is a training scenario, or it would come directly out of the raid vector sequence. So you kind of roll for things like the sky situation. Are there clouds? Is the sun out? Where is the sun? Etc. Etc. All of that is provided for us here in our situation manual, which I will show you momentarily. So we'll go through the orders phase, where we will assign orders to our various formations. We can assign it to the entire squadron. We can split it into flights. We can split the flights into sections. So we have up to four different groupings we can use. We move from that into the intercept phase. And our orders are to intercept and attack the bombers, to intercept the enemy fighters in one of the escort stations, and we'll talk about that as well, so that they can be tied up to allow another formation to maybe attack the bombers. So this is where the strategy piece comes in. From watching the dogfight or bomber cycle videos, you may get the impression that this is just roll dice and flip cards kind of thing, and you don't really have a lot of decision space. This is where the decision space probably is felt the heaviest, is in the how you deal with the interception map, and you'll have to manage your fuel and deal with various things that will come up based on what happens when you're trying to intercept these bombers. You'll have to decide how you want to handle escorts, what kind of risks you want to take with your fuel, and how you want to divide up your forces, and etc. So this is where your strategy can really impact the flow of the game and how things go, etc., etc. So you have 3 orders, as I mentioned: intercept the bombers, intercept the fighters to kind of remove them from interfering with your interception of the bombers, perhaps. And then cruise, which allows you to move to another position on the interception map. So we'll show the interception map momentarily. But there are various stations around that you basically will have your Luftwaffe fighters will be in specific escort stations in relation to the bomber formation, which will be in the middle. And then your fighters will come in from one of 4 areas, essentially. Either side or nose on or tail. So basically, essentially. We'll see that here in a bit. Intercept phase, you'll have your escort order. You might trigger a dogfight. You could lose contact. You could suppress or reduce the escort. So if an escort is heavy, you can reduce it to light. And if it's already light, you can actually eliminate the escort from the interception map. And if you have the bomber's order, you will be resolving your bomber's order one at a time, and it goes through the procedure, and then ultimately you might get into the bomber formation and you go through the bomber cycle. So you can have the dogfight cycle, the bomber cycle. Those are the pieces that branch off from what happens here on the interception map. The cruise order, basically, as I mentioned, it really involves you moving from one area to another on the map. And then you have, these are the approaches and so on, and the entropy phase, which is kind of where order sort of breaks down. Obviously, combat of any kind is chaotic. You make plans, you try to implement those plans. As soon as you contact the enemy, those plans go out the window, and you're basically in an action-reaction kind of cycle. That's what this kind of covers. Then we have our patrol complete. How do we determine when we're done? And we go to victory conditions and figure out how we did and score it and everything like that. So we will have fuel, etc., to deal with as well. There's a lot of little moving pieces in this, and this is where the whole game kind of shines the brightest, I believe, in terms of giving you meaningful decisions to make, and also allowing you giving you a whole lot of things to manage and deal with all at once, and it becomes kind of almost a juggling act to make everything work out correctly. Scenario 11, escort. Situation is this: 19 July 1940, Stukas are dive bombing Dover Harbor, and 32 Squadron scrambles from RAF Hawkinge to respond. Squadron leader J. Worrell leads his 12 Hurricanes to intercept at 6,000 feet, take control of 32 Squadron, and intercept the Stukas. But beware, this time the bombers are chaperoned. In scenario 10, there is no escort. This time we will have to deal with an escort. Special instructions: place the squadron formation marker in the port position on the interception map, low altitude. Start this training scenario with the orders phase of the interception sequence. Our visibility is clear, and the sun is in the tail position. We set our fuel track. Our escort is 109, heavy, so we have a heavy ME 109 presence in the high station. Channel patrol is none, so we'll be skipping that. We'll talk about that later. At the very worst, we'll talk about it in a campaign. The raid vector we skip as well, because that raid vector sequence will be, again, something that will be dealt with in a future installment. The scenario ends. Continue the interception sequence until all fighters are on the RTB track, in fate boxes, or all bombers are destroyed. If all fighters are no ammo, meaning those not in fate boxes on the RTB track, they RTB at their earliest opportunity. Then you have some victory outcomes here. Little illustration of our setup. We have this is the formation of Stukas we'll be dealing with, and we will have to use an additional deck, the escort reaction deck. This game will use this scenario will use pretty much all the decks except for the medium bomber deck and the Spitfire decks, because we are dealing with light bombers and our aircraft are Hurricanes, so no Spitfires. So we're going to get this set up, and I'll go through it where everything is on the interception map, and then we're going to get this started. Okay, so down here we have our visibility. It is clear and sunny. This impacts your chase table as far as when your fighters get lost contact, how do they, they end up in this area here. How do they get back into chasing down the bomber formation? So this is our squadron. We are in the port position low. You can be high. If you're in high, you use one of these blue stacking boxes and you put that there. And now he's at high. He's lifted up off the map. So you have low and high. Our ME-109 escorts, these gray boxes are German escort areas. So you can't see all of them, but we have the port and starboard ahead, and then above the ahead is lead station. We have high and low and trailing. And then for the RAF, there's a nose up here, which you can't see at the moment, port and starboard, tail and trailing. So those are the areas where your aircraft and the German aircraft will be operating, aside from the bombers, who will be right in the middle. Up here at the top, we have our fuel track. You can see there's a Hurricane full and a Spitfire full. The Hurricanes have a little bit more fuel, so they get one extra slot. Since we had to go through the raid vector sequence, which was not shown in this scenario, we're already down in this area right here. As you do things, you'll use up fuel, and you will progressively move to the right, eventually hitting low, empty, and vapor. When you do hit those, you run the risk of having to bail out and lose your aircraft, but hopefully save the pilot. So then you have these areas here, which are die rolls that you would have to undertake. So our fuel is here. We are in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th box. The RTB track is below it. The RTB track is just, it indicates when you are basically going back to base. So above that, you can kind of see some of the fate box areas. We will talk about that at a later time. The raid track and everything is also somewhat visible up here, but again, we'll deal with that later as well. Here we have our squadron display. So we have our entire squadron here. 4 sections, 2 flights, A flight, B flight. So yellow, red, blue, and green. And what we do to start this off is, you see up here we have the color counters that indicate which sections these are. And then, as I mentioned, A flight, B flight. So this is a little bit optional in terms of how you deal with it as it impacts on the interception map, which is above it at the moment. So basically, you can put your orders in here to indicate what orders you're giving each element, and you can give each section an order. You can give orders to your 2 flights, or you can give an order to the squadron. And you don't even have to really use this. You can kind of use it on the map itself, because we have blocks for our flights. So we have a block for A flight and B flight. We also have individual blocks for each section, like this. And then obviously each aircraft also has a block, so you can assign orders to those. So here's a bomber order. So if we did want to put a bomber order, say for B flight, could do that like so. And then if we wanted A flight to attack the escorts, put that here. Or we could just put it on the board. We could put A and B out on the board in the port area, and put the counters right on them, say escort and bombers, and do it that way as well. So it's kind of up to you how you want to lay this out, if you want to have this on your table as well, or if you just want to use the intercept map or interception map if you don't have as much space. Because there is also the bomber formation area, which I have not shown you yet. But we have 3 tiles of Stuka, 3 Keta, or Ketin, I guess is the plural. So we will have to deal with them once we get into the squadron itself. So as I mentioned, you can put the 2 blocks for your flights here on the map itself with their orders. So that's what I elected to do. Space isn't a big problem for me, but in terms of presentation for you guys on video, it's a little easier to put them on here. And I do have my squadron map below this off camera with all my individual fighters on them that I can then utilize as we need to, as we go through the sequence here. So we do have our 2 2 flights have orders. So the way you handle this is, again, going through our sequence. The first thing you do is our orders, which we just did. The second step is intercept, and that's broken up into 3 different phases, just kind of like the dogfight cycle. You do the various positions in a specific order, starting with head-on, tailing, or tailed, and then tailing. This works kind of the same way. You do escort, then bombers, then cruise. So because we have an escort order for 1, we will have to intercept our escort. So our escort is here. It's Me-109s heavy, and they are in the high station. So you have to kind of visualize this as being 3-dimensional, because we are talking about an aerial game, and all 3 dimensions are obviously pertinent when you're talking about aerial combat. So we do have a high station, a low station, and then additionally the stations that are kind of level with the bombers but surround it, like lead, ahead, the starboard and port, and the tail stations, or tailing station rather. So the thing you need to kind of keep in mind is the position of the sun, which is in the tail high area, which kind of benefits the Germans in this situation because they're at the high station. So we know that Flight A has an escort order, so they are going to attack our Me-109s in the high station. So what we do then is we have this player aid that indicates the location of what you're attacking. So if we're attacking, in this case, we are in the flank because we're on the port position. So we look at our escort type, and then you have the formation's altitude, and that's our formation's altitude. We are low and 109. So we're in this row, and then you look at what escort station you're attacking, and we are attacking high. So you go in this column across, and you see a 12 and a fuel icon. So that means we're going to spend a fuel icon to do this attack, and we need to roll a 12 to succeed. Now, you also have the out of the sun advantage if you are coming out of the sun, which is not the case here. So we know we need a 12, and we also know we need to spend a fuel to do that. So it's because this is a flight order, we need to move our yellow and red blocks on the fuel track one to the right, like so. So they are now moved to that box right there. We'll roll. We only need to roll 1 die. We need a 12. We got a 1. That's outstanding. So obviously that's below what we need. And so here's what happens when we do this. Okay. So we're intercepting the fighters here. And so basically what the die roll does is determines who has advantage. So if you roll 12, we would have the advantage. We draw an RAF advantage card and use that to initiate our dogfight. There will be 2 dogfights, 1 for each section, because obviously a section, or a flight rather, is comprised of yellow section and red section. So we can take this off, and they go lost contact, because obviously they're going to be tangling with the fighter escort, and meanwhile the bombers are flying on, and hopefully will be intercepted by Flight B, or B flight. But in the meantime, we have to tangle with our Me-109s. We know they're going to have the advantage, so what we have to do is set up our dogfight area and play out our 2 dogfights, one with Section A, and one with, Flight A, yellow section, and A flight, red section. Okay, so we're going to draw our 2 Luftwaffe advantage cards. 1 for yellow, 1 for red. And we'll flip yellow first. And we're tailed by a Schwarm. There's section only and green pilot only. We're not using pilot experience, so no green pilot. So we're just going to get tailed by a Schwarm of Me-109s on this card. And then this card, just to show them both at the same time, head on by a Rota, and then Han in the sun, clear or haze only if escort station, it must be in the sun, add a rota tailed. So that situation is actually what we are in. So we are going to get a rota on the head and on the tail. Okay, so those are our situations. All right, so we'll do our situation on this side first. Our tailed yellow section here, I'm going to use a turn maneuver because we are tailed. Okay, so we draw from our tailed deck. I have a turn as my strategy. All right, so here we are, Hurricane. We are a section. So we're going to use this top area here because we're taking on 109s. So we have an L, which is loose. And that means the RAF fighter becomes independent and is now lost contact. If the section is tailed, you may have the Luftwaffe fighter marker tail the RAF fighter. Okay, then we get a head-on rota, like reinforcements. That's what this is. We ignore the green because we're not using experience. So we're going to have a fighter get loose. We're going to have a head-on appear, and we ignore that. So that's what this card gives us. So our turn did nothing. I'll take that away. We'll now roll our dice. So we have a 1 to 4 will be yellow 3, 5 to 8 leader, 9 to 12 2. Roll the 4. So our one fighter gets separated from the crew here. So I'll just put him off to the side. Maybe slide him up a little bit. Now I can elect to have our swarm tail him, and then also have the new rota come in on his nose, or I can keep them on the group. So I think actually I'm going to keep them on the group and elect to have him just be lost contact. So I can put a lost contact chit here on the squadron display for 3 to indicate that he's lost contact. I'm just going to move him off to the side here because he's out of the fight and lost contact. So now we have a 109. Let me flip that around. Coming in here for round 2. Now we have to do head on first. So we'll do head on first. So again, we are in this row. And we're 109. So if it was green, we'd take a hit. He's not. So they just vanish. So they're gone. So that one was good. And then we draw a tailed card. And so tailed card, we have 109s and the section. Section here. We take 2 hits. So we draw 2 chits. And we get a rudder 10 and a fuselage 11. So those are both pretty bad, actually. So let's roll to see which aircraft they apply to. So we have an even and an odd situation now. First roll's 5, so we'll put we rolled the rudder first, I believe. Put that there, and then I'll roll for the other one. It's even, so we split the hits. So once you've done that, you would then go to the hit resolution phase, where we would roll here to see. We get a 5, so he will go RT fate box. It's likely both will end up in the fate box here. 8, yep. So yellow has basically been wiped out. So now we'll go do red. So we have 2, and again we start head on. So head on here, we get a damage and a vanish and a low ammo. So we need to roll for the low ammo. It's a 5, so that's going to be leader. So he's going to get a low ammo. He would also get credit for the kill for the 1 damage because that would flip it to a single aircraft. But they also vanish, so they go away. And now we'll do a card for the tailed. So shoot, I keep forgetting to put my I always want to do a maneuver, like a turn. I typically do turn, occasionally do slip. So I'm going to put the turn here. So the turn would, if you don't do the turn, you get this at the bottom. But with the turn or a slip, if you slip, that would be a successful slip, actually, and you would end up tailing them. What this would do is flip you around to put him on the head, but he also vanishes, so it basically takes him away. So that would end our dogfight. So red section did okay. We got a low ammo on our leader, so we can drop that in here, actually. We can remove him because he basically won his fight. Yellow has been essentially wiped out. We do have 3 who's in lost contact. But this did not go particularly well, obviously, for the RAF. We shot down one fighter, but lost 2 and had a 3rd go out of contact. Okay, so right here on our interception map board is the suppression table. So you start with the station size, heavy or light. The circle is an ME-110 thing. They go into a defensive circle, and that is a whole other mechanic that that we won't see in this most likely, but may come up in like a campaign mission, etc. Because we don't have any 110s in this scenario. So RAF fighters engaged. We had 6. You used the number you started with. So we had 6 at start. So we used 6 again, rolling against the heavy, and then you have 9 and 5. So what do the numbers mean? The 9 is the number needed to reduce, and the 5 is the number needed to suppress. All right. So we got a 6. A 6 will suppress them, but not reduce them. Okay, so we take our escort suppressed marker and drop it on there. So they are suppressed. So now we would move to the bomber intercept. So we have a chart for that as well, as you would expect, just like we had for fighter interception. So you're going to start with your formation's position, which is on the flank. We're in the port position. So our formation is low. We apply the, do we apply no escort? Yes, we apply no escort because they're suppressed. If they're not suppressed, then you have to use, where the escort station is. So it would be high, which would be a 9 for an ME-109. So because there's no escort, it's a 7. So if we roll a 7 or higher, and we do have to spend a fuel, but if we roll a 7 or higher, we can penetrate. And then you may apply a reroll by spending an additional fuel. So if we roll a 6, say, we could try again, and if we roll a 7 the second time, we would get in, but it would cost us a second fuel to do so. So we take our die. We're looking for a 7 or higher. Please give me a 7 or higher. We got an 11. So an 11 means that we have successfully penetrated the bomber formation, and we would go into the bomber cycle. So as mentioned at the beginning, we're taking on Stukas. So this is our Stuka formation. Pretty straightforward. They're in a line. They are connected. The tiles are all touching, which indicates they are in formation. So our goal is to break the formation apart because, as I mentioned in the videos for the bomber cycle, you break them apart and they become more vulnerable. So when we look at the bomber cards, you'll see that the top row is when they're in formation. The middle row is when they're broken into individual keta. So one tile would be a keta. And then obviously, if you can knock one of the actual aircraft out of the keta, it becomes isolated and even more vulnerable. The Stuka was notoriously vulnerable to fighter aircraft. So in theory, this should be somewhat easier than when we were taking on Junkers and Dornier bombers during the videos on the bomber cycle. So for this, we use the bomber deck, the light bomber deck. So it says light at the bottom. The Stuka is the only light bomber in the base game. I would assume that's going to remain the case. I don't know that there'll ever be expansions or whatever, but for now, this applies only to the Stuka. So we draw our top card, and here we look. We are approaching from the side. So on our Interception map, we came from port, so obviously we're approaching from the port side. So here's starboard and port, where we are attacking a formation, multiple tiles rather, attached to each other. So starboard or port, so we're in the top row, center column. We get a damage and a low ammo, and if we had 7 attacking the formation, which we will, it's the number of aircraft plus the damage. So we're going to apply 1 damage. We're attacking with blue leader here. This was our first card. So he's going to get a damage. And we are going to actually separate this tile because we get the distress here. Or disruption. I forget if it's disruption or distress. Which one is it? I got to check. It is disruption. Distress is for the individual aircraft to separate it from the rest of its keta. So we need to pull for a bomber damage. And we get, this is a hurricane, so we get 11. If we roll an 11, we'll actually knock them out of formation. So let's roll our die. We got an 11. As you can see, we got an 11. So what that does is we put a fallen on here. Put a fallen, so he's out of formation. The keta itself is now knocked off the formation. And we take a Stuka. So we take a Stuka, and he has a fuselage damage. And we do this because blue 3 is also going to attack him. So we draw another card. So now, starboard or port, we are actually attacking an individual aircraft, and we got a jammed, which is a terrible result, but it is what it is. We also got a low ammo on the first attack, so I need to place that as well. So he gets a low ammo. And you can actually place these on the squadron display. I'll keep them here so they're more visible, although I have that a little too high, so it's not exactly visible. So he gets a low ammo, and he gets a jammed. So 3 is jammed, and leader has low ammo, but we did do 1 damage to our Stuka and separated him from his keta, and also separated his keta from the overall formation. So now we'll do blue 2 attacking this Stuka right here. So again, we're on the top card because these 2 ketin are still attached. Damage, low ammo, and 7. This is no longer true. So we do not have 7 any longer because we have 4 plus the 1 damage would only be 5. So we draw damage. It is a wing. So wing damage for the first attack on that aircraft. Now, green leader's following in behind. Again, we're in this one, and it's an 8. So this would apply if he was green, which he's not. So it's just an 8. It's not an 8, obviously. So that did nothing for us. We'll go green 2, attacking this guy right here. So we get a damage and an R, and then a 10. So the damage, we'll draw the damage, and the damage is a fuselage with a possibility of knocking him out of formation. And the R would indicate return fire. So the Stuka's rear gunner has fired back and damaged green 2. So we look at the backside first, and then if we have a hit symbol, we apply the hit on the other side. So it's a fuselage 6, and we will check that at the end of the combat. I'm going to check the fuselage damage now. We get an 11, so he also has been knocked out of formation. Okay, so I need to make a quick correction here. If we look here at our shit here, we can see this isn't actually a fallen out symbol. This is a destroyed symbol. So that fighter, because we rolled an 11, is actually destroyed. So we take a marker here, and on one side is fallen, and on the other side, destroyed. So he is destroyed. There. And now we would draw for 3 anyway because he still attacks, because all of this is assumed to be simultaneous. So we draw another bomber card. Again, we use the bottom row. We're attacking from the side, so it's a damage, which doesn't have an impact because he's destroyed. But we do get a low ammo. So we take a low ammo marker here and apply that to him. So that would be the end of that. Now we would resolve our hit. So we need to roll a 6 or higher for green 2. Oh, shoot. Try that again. We roll a 10. We roll a 10, throw that back in the bucket. And everybody, well, first you're supposed to disengage, which I always forget to do, but basically I'm just going to say that they flew through the formation. They're on the other side now. We'll just move these guys over here, like so. So they're off screen, but they've just flown out. So what happens after the first round of the bomber cycle is you have to do the entropy cycle here. So as you can see here, we do bombers and then we would do cruise. Nobody has a cruise order. So we go to the entropy cycle. So then you do bomber formation, which would be round 2 of the bomber cycle. And after that, we'll have escort reaction and then chase, which is where fighters who are lost contact will attempt to regain contact with the bomber formation. So first up is round 2 of our bomber cycle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 3 greens, and they're all going to come and they're going to attack this guy here to try and break this formation apart. I will take green 3 had low ammo. We will take blue 2, and we'll have blue 2 and blue 3, who's jammed currently, attack this guy, and our blue leader with low ammo is going to, actually let's do it this way. Let's push this down a little bit and push this up a little bit, and he's going to attack. He's going to come around on the tail, so he's still low ammo. He's still low ammo, but he gets a delay, so he actually won't be able to attack until the 3rd round. Okay, so we resolve again. We can resolve in whatever order we want. So we're going to, again, we have these guys attacking this aircraft here to try and split this away. So we draw a bomber card for this attack first. So we're attacking a single, and we're attacking with blue 2, and he gets a jammed. So my favorite result, not really. So now I have 2 aircraft who are jammed, and now we draw for blue 3 who is jammed, and he gets a dorsal damage and a low ammo. But we have to first roll to see if it's going to actually be damage or if we're just going to remove the jammed marker. So we roll, and it's even. So even means you apply the damage, but the jammed stays. So we need to put, we need to draw a damage chit. Look at the hurricane side, it's wing damage. So he's now got 2 damages. It takes 3 damage to shoot down a light bomber. So he's gonna last for 1 more round. Now this guy is on a delay, so he doesn't attack this round. So now we're going with our green attacking this kata right here, specifically that aircraft. We're going to draw a card. And this is still a formation. So we get a green and an 8. We have 3. So there's nothing there for us. Green 2 gets a damage and a return fire. So that would be, we pull a damage. Here, pull damage. It is wing damage and a possible destruction if we roll a 9 or higher. And we get a 12. So pretty good rolling there. So again, we knock one out. But now we also have to pull for our return fire. And we get a wing 9. So when we get to the hit resolution phase, we'll have to check that. Or hit check phase, I think. So now we go to green 3. We draw a card, because even though he's destroyed, we still have to resolve his attack. So we're up here, a damage, a low ammo, and an 11, which does not impact. So this is going to go no ammo. And the damage is washed away because he's already destroyed. So that would end the second bomber cycle, which means we now go on to the escort reaction phase of the entropy phase. So we draw, the way this works is we draw a card from the escort reaction deck. Okay, so looking at our card here, so these indicate drawing, basically drawing additional help arrives, essentially. So we check here first. This indicates if the formation escapes in the clouds. We don't have clouds, so we don't need to check this. You would roll the die to determine that. If the station is suppressed, which it is currently, they would then you would then actually cause a dogfight here at the high station. If high is empty, low moves there. So you would high is actually not empty at the moment. We do have an escort there, and this indicates the various positions. And this one would indicate that a new 109 actually appears up there in the ahead station, and then this would indicate an ambush. So we will ambush our. You ambush anyone who's lost contact if it's a section. And then if there are no sections lost contact, you'd go to the independent fighter that's a lost contact. We actually have one section, red section, that is lost contact. And we have one individual aircraft, yellow, that is also lost contact. So you do the section first. So they are going to have to, we'll draw a Luftwaffe advantage card, and we have to play a dogfight. So one point of clarification before we actually start our dogfight here is this indicates reduce. So if we had ME 109 escorting us up in the, or just any escort actually, although no, it does say 109. So if we had a 109 up here, we would reduce it. We'll go from heavy to light and light to completely reduced in the ahead station. We don't have anybody in the ahead station. The only place we have somebody is in the high station. They are currently suppressed. So now we will draw our Luftwaffe advantage card, which is here. Okay, so this is going to be bad. So we have a head-on rota, and then because of this, it says bounced if heavy escort, which we do have. Addish form, it tails your fighters. So we do have a little bit of a situation to deal with here. So we have a head-on rota. We are attacking red, as you can see, and then we have a tailing swarm behind them. So we have to resolve. We'll do head-on first. That's the way it works. We draw here. Okay, we're up here. So we get a reduction, and if it was green, a vanish, and if it was green, it would take a hit. So head-on often results in a vanish. So they're gone. Now we do the tailed. We draw a tailed card. Oh, I always do this. I need to pick my maneuver. We're going to do a turn. I love doing turns. They're my favorite. So here on our turn, we get a group for our section. So we get a vanish and one hit. So let's roll to see who gets the hit. It's a 3, so that's going to be a red 3. So we draw from our cup. And we get a cockpit 9. So that's kind of bad. So we will now move on and roll. Well, these guys vanish. And now we will resolve our hit. And we got a 5, which means that is a off to the bad box, the fate box. Sorry, it's drawing a blank for a moment. So that ends the dogfight here for our entropy phase, for our escort reaction. And now we move to chase, which is where these guys can have an opportunity to get back into the fight by recovering, essentially, and we roll for that, obviously. So we're going to move back to the interception map and resolve that, because the chart for that is on the interception map. And then we will move on and continue with our scenario here. All right, so the pertinent area on our chase table, the pertinent area on our interception map is right here. So we have escort, heavy, and then you have die rolls needed to get in based on your visibility. So we have clear, so we're in the first column. So we need a 5 or higher to succeed, and if we don't get a 5, but we roll a 1 through 4, we're going to actually have to have a dogfight. So we will roll our dice and hope to get at least a 5, and this is for red section. And we roll a 7, so that's a success. Now we roll again. Chase succeeds, section, and fighter. So the fighter you don't roll, because a fighter will go directly into the bomber formation. But for a section, we roll again. We get 3, which is trailing low. So we're going to put him in the trailing position, and he stays low. Pretty straightforward. If I slide this up a little bit, you can see here's the trailing section. That's where he goes. Now we'll do the same for our lone fighter here. So again, we need a 5 or higher. And this time we get a 12. So he also succeeds, and we do not need to roll. He goes right into the bomber formation. And so then we would that would end our entropy phase, and we go and we move on. Okay, so we would now return to our interception map. We need to move the fuel down 1 box because we're starting a new one. We would remove our escort suppressed. Here on our sequence of play, we have control. This is the entropy phase is over. We go here. We did fuel. You do escort recovery, which I just did. Then you have escort exit. So in a normal campaign mission, there's a raid track here. We're not using it, but that would obviously the Germans will run out of fuel at some point and need to return to base themselves. So that's kind of what this models. We're not using that, so we're going to skip that. It's not a channel patrol, so we skip that as well. Reform, lost contact. That's an option to join your sections back together, or even form an ad hoc one. So like if the lone yellow fighter wanted to join up with red, which is down a fighter, to make 1 full section again, that's where that would take place. Raid vector. Again, we're not using the raid vector right now, so we do swirl again. So that just means go back to the top. We go to the orders, and we start over. So we're at the orders section. I am again going to tell my red section that they want to attack the escort. B remains inside the bomber formation. I'm hoping to, kill a couple more bombers maybe, and then I can end my mission and hopefully have some success. So that's where we are right now. So we're going to start with, as before, the escort interception sequence right here. Escort interception sequence. So if we succeed, we get an RAF advantage. If we fail, the Luftwaffe gets an advantage. And we're going to have a dogfight. So we will pull our chart out again. And we are in the trailing position this time. So we're using this. We are low. We're taking on a 109. They are in the high. So we're going to lose a fuel. And we need a 10 to get advantage. So first we'll move our fuel. This is red, so we're going to move our fuel over 1 more. Then we're going to roll and hope we get a 10 or higher. We got a 4. So the 4 means we have a dogfight, and it involves the Germans having the advantage. So as before, our section goes lost contact because we're involved in a dogfight. From our previous interactions, we know red leader has low ammo. So we draw our Luftwaffe advantage, and we get the same thing we just had. So we're going to get a head-on rota and a tailing swarm based on the escort level. So this looks familiar. We're going to have here, those guys there, and these guys up here. And we start with a head-on card. Same thing, section, ME-109, low ammo, damage, vanish, and a tailing rota behind us. So this rota will disappear. A new one's going to appear behind us. So the rota's on the tail. Let's roll. Even will be leader, odd would be 2. It is odd, so we get a low ammo for red 2. Low ammo. Red 2 gets low ammo. And now we move on to tailed. We pull another card, and this time we're up here again. And again, I forgot to do my turn maneuver. I almost always will do a turn maneuver. So we're going to, you know what? I'm going to say that since I forgot, I'm going to take the hit this time. So the rotor will disappear, but we're going to take a hit and lose a fuel. So I'm going to take a hit and lose a fuel. The rotor went away. So we will draw a hit. We will again roll to see who got hit. It's a 9, so it's a 6 actually, sorry. So it's a fuselage 4 hit to the leader. Now we'll do our form tailing. So again, I didn't do a maneuver. So here, this is going to be interesting. We get loose, another fuel loss, and a reduction. Yeah, so they get reduced. Loose, so he gets lost. Well, actually, we got to roll. And it's 4, so red leader gets lost contact for us. So he's off on his own now. And we move our fuel 1 more. So we've lost 2 fuel actually on this, which is getting us really close to low. So that would end that, and we would go on to our next phase, which is we're only tailed. So we have our tailed here. I am going to use a maneuver this time. We're going to try my favorite turn. Draw a card. So turn results in us getting hit. So I forgot to roll the hit for leader. Let me do that real quick. It's a 12, so it was no damage. Trivial. This time we get a wing 6. Okay, get rid of the turn for the moment, and we'll roll 9, so that goes away as well. Now we're going to put our turn back, draw another card, pull the card. Okay, here we go. Vanish and a hit. So one way or another, this is over. He's gone. We'll draw a hit. Fuselage 11. It's an 8. He goes to the fate box, and that ends the dogfight. So now we return to our escort suppression table, which is right here. Again, in that fight, we actually had only 2. Only had 2 because it was only red, and there were only 2 aircraft in there, heavy. So we actually need an 11 to reduce, an 8 to suppress. So we need to roll high. And we got a 3, which means no suppression. No suppression, no reduction. The escort is going to be available to intercede during the bomber formation round. So we don't have any orders for bombers or cruise orders. In intercept, we go to entropy and our bomber formation. So kind of to reiterate where we were before, he's no ammo, so he's going to vamoose and RTB. So he's out. Yellow 3 is now on the scene, however. So we will have Yellow 3 attack the lead Stuka here in this keta, and these 2 guys will attack the lead in this keta. These 2 will continue to attempt to shoot, well, at least 2 will. Actually, I'm going to use both since they both are jammed. So these 2 will both attempt to shoot him down. And then we had a delay here with blue leader. Okay, so we have our delay from previous turn. We're going to remove that. So we are now all set up here to do our attack. So we'll start. Let's start with blue leader with a rear tailing attack on that Stuka right there. So we draw our bomber card, and we are on the tail, and it's a Keta, and of course there's no damage, and it's a 6, which does us no good, and he gets a low ammo, which makes him now no ammo. So that was bad. Not what I was hoping to see there. And then we'll go over here. We'll do blue 2. He's coming from the side. He's attacking a single aircraft. We get a damage and a low ammo, assuming we roll even to get the damage applied, which we do. We got a 6. So the jam stays. He draws another damage, but it would be his 3rd damage, so he's actually going to be destroyed. So we flip him to destroyed. Remove this. Okay, so now we do have to roll for 3 or pull for 3. So starboard single aircraft would have been a damage and a low ammo. Again, we roll to see if we lose our jammed or inflict damage. It's even again, so the jammed stays. So these two are now done. We'll do yellow 3, and I screwed up here. When I was rolling for the chase, when you do a solo fighter, you're supposed to roll 2 die and take the lower number. I only rolled 1, so in theory I could have ended up not getting in here. The number to roll was pretty low. I needed a 5, so chances are 50, a little bit better than 50-50. It would have worked out anyway on the other die. So obviously I made a mistake there, and I'm just pointing it out now, but this might not have actually gotten in here. So since he's here, we are going, I have a die in my hand. We're going to pull a card. He's attacking a formation from the side. So we have an 8 here for disruption. But we also have a dorsal damage and an ammo. So he's going to get low ammo. And he's going to do dorsal damage here. So he gets one of those. Now the greens, leader and 2, are attacking the lead Stuka on this Keta. Again, formation. So we get a damage, and we get a low ammo and a 6. As I mentioned here, we have a damage, a low ammo, and a 6 for disruption. That is going to break these guys apart, because on the formation card, we have destroyed counters, each count is 1, 2, plus the 3 fighters equals 6, and then we're going to actually add another damage to this guy anyway. So let's do that. Let's pull our damage out. It is a wing and a possible destroy if we can roll an 11. So let's roll for that. And we rolled a 12. So that's actually another destroyed. We'll stick a destroyed on there. And these guys are now broken apart as well. So we've broken them all apart. And leader gets, well, we do have to, no, we don't have to roll for that. Leader gets a low ammo. And now we do have to draw a card for 2 because we still have to finish it out. So it would now be on the single card, and it would be a 5 and a G. But as I mentioned, it does not matter at this point. So that finishes that out. We would roll everybody out to be basically disengaged. Everyone's disengaged, and that would end that bomber cycle. Okay, so let's draw our escort reaction card. So again, we ignore this. Okay, we would actually reduce our escort. So that's interesting. We reduce our escort here, and we don't have any ambush. So that's good. So we reduce our escort, but they are going to attack. So just to kind of clarify here, we're going to reduce our escort from heavy to light, and we're going to draw 2 RAF advantage cards, and there we'll randomly attack our fighters in here. We have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I will use a D6 to determine which one gets attacked. But first, let's draw our Luftwaffe advantage cards. So we do draw 2, and then we will draw to see which ones they attack. So 4, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 1. And then we'll do the other one. We don't want to do a 4 twice. We'll do 1. So these two are drawn. That's actually pretty good for the Germans since one has a jam and the other one has no ammo. So we'll split them this way. And we'll say this card goes here and this card goes there. We'll do this one first. Okay, so since it's no longer a heavy escort, we don't have to do this part. Head on rota. So I'll just put this up here. We'll draw a rota, put them in a head on, and we will draw our head on card. So we'll draw a head on card. We're a single aircraft, ME-109, vanish. So nothing there. They flew by. No damage. So now we'll do the other one. So this one, we get a head on, and we also get a clear haze only if escort station. It must be in the sun, and a rota. I don't know that this applies because we're inside the bomber formation, but I don't know, maybe it does. I'm going to act like it does anyway. So we're going to have a rota on the head and a rota on the tail. So we'll do head on first. So same thing, we're here. So we get a vanish and a damage and a low ammo. He's already out of ammo, so it's just a vanish. And we draw a tailed card. So single against a single, it's a hit. So pull our chit. It is a wing 3. So we roll. We get a 3, so that's trivial. Now I can do a maneuver. Let's do an evade. I'm going to do an evade. I'm going to draw 2 cards. So card 1 would be a vanish. Card 2 would be a hit. I'll take the vanish. And that ends the dogfight. So the escorts have done their thing. So we would now go to the chase sequence. Our red is actually lost contact again, but they're going to RTB because they are low fuel. So when you have low fuel, you're supposed to roll. And if you roll a 1, then you have a bailout. We had a 1. So you would have a bailout. We actually haven't been using fate boxes, but that's what would happen there. We would have the bailout, and so you actually have to sit out the next patrol is how that works, according to what I'm looking at here on the board. So that one is done. Red is done. They're the only one that is not currently engaged. All of these guys will RTB at this point. And we're going to say that, patrol is complete. So we're going to land, bailout, fate. That's all based on your RTB track, based on where you are in the fuel track, where we are in the fuel track for everybody but red would not require a roll. So we have basically finished our mission here. So we destroyed 4 Stukas. I just knocked something on the floor. It's a die. So let's go to 11 and see what our victory conditions say. So outcome, you destroyed 2 or more bombers and all the others are flying independently. That is not true. Missed opportunities, all bombers tiles are isolated and at least 1 Stuka is destroyed. That is true. Ambushed, 3 or more fighters are in the fate boxes. I have 3 in the fate boxes. If you manage to earn victory, upgrade this to hard won victory. So we kind of meet both of these. So I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, we did pretty well, but not as good as we would have hoped. So that's going to do it. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you as always for watching. My name is Joe. This has been Hexed Encountered, and until next time, happy gaming.